How to tell my son he's not going to inherit my business. I'm 48, have operating 2 Chinese restaurants with my wife, 49, for over 20 years. My son was always expected to take over the business, and he studied business in college and worked in professional kitchens to get trained, and I made him manager 3 years ago as a test. Problem is he isn't good managing the restaurants. He cuts corners, doesn't take care of the food, has a short temper, and many of my long-time employees left because they didn't like it. Need business if I leave it to him. During the pandemic, he wanted to close our restaurants, end the property lease, and wait out the pandemic. Maybe that would have been the smart thing to do, but I didn't want to see the work I've done go up in flames. I decided to close one and keep the other running. I was in poor health, and my daughter got laid off of her job as an engineer, so I had to run one location while my son handled closing the other. Honestly, she did a pretty good job. She managed to keep most of our long-term staff and keep the restaurant above water with takeout. She's been managing the restaurant for almost a year, and I think she's doing a better job than my son. But how do I tell my son he doesn't get the business when we have told him it was his since he was high school? How do I prevent him hating his sister for getting it instead? Too long. Don't read I want my daughter to take over the restaurant, but I'd already promised it to my son. How can I do this without my son hating me? Edit, to be clear, in the 3 years he's been managing the restaurants, we have had many arguments over how best to run it. He doesn't believe the methods we've been using and tries to get cheaper ingredients and vendors when the ones we know and trust provide better ingredients. He doesn't treat the staff as he should, since he feels if they leave he can just hire new ones, even though some of our staff have been with us for 10 years and know more about the restaurant than he does. These are things we disagree on, and I question what he learned in college. Unfortunately, I feel if I give him another chance now, he will know to do as he knows I want the restaurant to be run until I turn over ownership and then change it to be the way he wants. Does your daughter want to take over the restaurant? You are in a situation entirely of your own making. How do I tell my son he doesn't get the business when we have told him it was his since he was high school? I didn't ever think about anyone else to inherit the business apart from my son. Why would your son bother to be a good manager or take care with his work when getting the top job was a guarantee regardless? It's like telling someone, it doesn't matter whether you get an A on this test or I'll give you $1 million anyway, and then be surprised when they don't bother to study. It looks like you never told your son, I will make you the manager of the family restaurant if you demonstrate an aptitude for it and evidence that you can maintain the business's success. You simply promised it to him. I completely understand you don't want to see your life's work ruined by his mismanagement, but you're changing the terms of the agreement. I will give you the business because you, my son, doesn't say anything about him being good at. You are a manager with experience running a business. Handle this like any other business dealing. Son, when I made you a manager, you demonstrated poor managerial skills. I do not have confidence you will be able to run this business effectively, and I do not want to see my life's work destroyed by your poor management. As such, I've made the decision to hand the business over to daughter, as she's demonstrated an aptitude for running the restaurant business well. How can I do this without my son hating me? You can't. You have zero control over his feelings. So you need to decide, follow through on your promise and see the business likely fail, or make the best decision for the business and accept whatever reaction your son has. Kind of sucks that your son made significant life decisions, degree, jobs, training, around the fact that he'd be inheriting your businesses. Whatever you do, I try to be sensitive to that.